Well, hello everyone, welcome. I'm Carl, a member of the CK-12 team. My colleague and Lindsay and I will be running today's webinar, Teaching Strategies Using CK-12. We're so glad you've joined us, whether it's your dinner time at 6 p.m. on the East Coast or from around the world. I see today we have a lot of people from Canada and the UAE, Argentina, Karachi. So welcome to wherever you are and whatever time it is. I'm glad that you've come to our session on teaching strategies because hopefully you'll leave with a lot of great ideas.
And here we are at the end, toward the end of the second week of the live sessions for our Certified Educator program. We assume by now you guys are getting really good at navigating our Google Classroom and you're really familiar with Zoom. We love reading where you guys are from. Looks like most of you are getting to all panelists and attendees. Do make sure that you select that option so everybody in the chat window can see what you are posting there.
All right, let's go to the Twitter sphere and see what's been happening out there. Susie talked about the great math sources that she found during CK-12 Certified. Gratitude to the CK-12 Foundation. We appreciate that. Brittany talked about being excited to work towards her CK-12 Certified Educator program this month. Yes, I think it's very exciting. Casey gave us a little wrap up of things she's done recently. 7,000 steps yesterday, Starbucks, last CK-12 webinar, and great. Thanks for a great summer, PD. Can't wait to share with my colleagues. Finally, Andrew was talking about getting ready to start my last breakout session for certified program. Learned a ton about something I thought I already knew a lot about. Can't wait to share with others in my district and PLN. So we appreciate you doing your shout outs because every time you mention hashtag CK-12 certified or mentioning at CK-12 Foundation, it really helps us spread the word to your network of people, both professionally and friends-wise. So please continue to do that. And this is a final pitch from me. If you haven't joined Twitter yet, it's great to make a digital presence and really use this as a great tool to find more information out.
And fun fact, Carl, Casey there, she actually is the library media specialist at my old middle school in Kansas, so where I went to school.
Wow.
Yes, thank you for being impressed, Carl. We are going to talk about a lot of things in today's session. The last time we did this session last week, people were responding and saying that this is the session that really starts bringing everything together. You guys have probably attended a lot of sessions, and today we're hoping to really give you some strategies. So we're going to do some broad implementation strategies for using CK-12. You're going to see different ways to use CK-12 either as a core or supplemental curriculum. Next, we're going to be sharing some easy to implement teaching strategies, which will cover our concepts, modalities, different intervention tools, homework, and how to improve literacy. Our main goal is that by the end of this session, you come away with specific and actionable strategies to engage your students using CK-12 resources. But we are going to start with a poll here, as we often do. And we want to find out about your previous experience with CK-12. So we're going to launch this poll. You guys should be seeing it right now. And the question is, what CK-12 resources have you used previously with your students? And we do want you to check all that apply. So we've listed a lot of our resources there, the FlexBooks, our interactives, our PLIX and Sims, our adaptive practice, our study guides, our videos, our real-world applications, or the last option is I've not had a chance to use CK-12 with my students yet. We've got 75% of the votes in. We're waiting for a few more of you to lock in your vote. We appreciate you guys participating in these polls. It is interesting to know who our audience is on any individual webinar. Kind of helps us figure out what your needs might be and how we can help give some instruction to meet them. Gonna give it just another couple seconds. And we're going to go ahead and end the poll, and we'll be happy to share the results with you. So the large majority of you fall into that I have not used CK-12 with my students yet category, which is great. That means that you're here spending time, a lot of you on your summers, doing professional development, doing what teachers do best, which is just working all the time, trying to always learn more and help your students. So if you haven't used it, Carl's going to give you a lot of tools today for how you can get started with your students. I did just want to mention again that we do have a resource page for all of our sessions. It's in Google Classroom, and it's also in your chat window right now, so that you can access that resource page.
Great. So before we get into specific ideas of using CK-12, I really want to talk about using CK-12 from a higher view. CK-12 began simply as a digital replacement for textbooks. We introduced the idea of a FlexBook, and it took off from there. These days, we offer so much more, but there are people that still only use FlexBooks. So you can use CK-12 as your core curriculum or supplemental. Some schools customize a FlexBook and then use a variety of CK-12 modalities, like our adaptive practice, to also improve student learning. It's their core curriculum, and the CK-12 platform works great to help deliver great content. Other schools use a core curriculum other than CK-12, but still supplement that curriculum with CK-12 modalities like our reads, adaptive practice, study guides, concept pages, real-world applications, and videos. An example is that many schools use CPM, College Prep Mathematics, as their core curriculum. Often this is mandated by the school or district. It's a great program that uses the guided discovery method to teach and build math knowledge. But when a student is sick or on a field trip, they don't have the benefit of the teacher's guidance during the discovery lesson. So teachers often give links to the reads on CK-12 to help the student learn what they missed. Also, our other modalities help reinforce their knowledge. Finally, by quickly trying our adaptive practice, they can see if they understand the concept. Whether it's CPM, Big Ideas, or Engage New York, CK-12 is a great way to supplement that content. Once you've decided to go with CK-12 as your core curriculum, there are two different ways to implement it. The first is to use a CK-12 FlexBook, whether you customize it or not, along with all the wonderful modalities. This way offers the comfort of a book, plus all the advantage of improved learning with modern digital resources. Parents like being able to access the FlexBook. It provides a great foundation they can relate to. The limitations of this is that a FlexBook is still a linear pathway of learning that is a one-size-fits-all solution. By pairing it with other modalities, personalized learning is achieved. The second way to use CK-12 as a core curriculum is to only use a mix of modalities without the anchor of a FlexBook. Many of our users feel they don't need a textbook anymore. Instead, it's much more useful to have a variety of modalities for specific differentiated groups. I might break up my class into 3 groups: the purple group, the green group, and the blue group. I know that the purple group is made up with struggling readers. So they might try to watch a video first, then do an interactive, and finally do a basic level read. The green group might start with the interactive, then do a read, and finally do an activity where I give them a writing prompt. Remember, you can use CK-12 FlexBooks and modalities as is with no customization needed. It's quality content that's been written by proven subject matter experts. Then when you're ready, you can begin the customization process by changing the scope and sequence to match what is used by your school and district. Also, localizing the content helps engage the students and make it relevant to their lives. In the end, you'll end up with quality content that truly improves student learning. We have many public and private schools that use CK-12 simply because it's a platform that helps them deliver the highest quality content possible to their students.
All right, we're going to be keeping an eye on the Q&A window throughout this presentation. We do have a full team here. We've got Katie and Michaela ready to type some answers if you guys have questions. We'll also answer some live throughout the presentation as well. So use the Q&A window as you guys have questions over what Carl is presenting. But it is early on, so no worries that we don't have any questions yet. Carl, why don't we keep moving and see what they come up with later?
I always say it's because I'm doing too good a job. I'll have to be more vague at times so we get some questions, okay? All right, so we've arrived at the really exciting part of this session, real teaching strategies that you can use in your classroom. Whenever I go to an educator conference, I always hope there's a couple of things that I can then implement in my class the next week. If it's all theoretical, it's hard for me to justify that the conference is worth my time. So for the rest of this session, we'll be discussing ways to use CK-12 that you can immediately implement. So the first set of teaching strategies we'll have a look at are using CK-12 concepts and modalities. Up until 2012, CK-12 was simply a FlexBook company, digital textbooks. Then in 2012, we broke up our content into 5,000 concepts. We created concept pages, each with a variety of modalities of learning for that concept. So in this section, we'll be discussing linking to CK-12 concept pages, embedding CK-12 interactives, videos, adaptive practice directly in your lessons, assigning real-world applications, using PLIX during class, answering PLIX open discussion questions, using simulations for physics and chemistry, and maximizing our standards browser.
To help us start thinking about learning using concepts, we're going to watch a short video here. This actually has our co-founder and executive director, Neeru Khosla, to help us understand this fundamental shift in learning.
When I was a kid, I could never understand how electrons kind of move through, a bulb. How does that happen? In reality, a teacher doesn't really teach a book. A really teacher is teaching a concept in the book.
So students set goals for their learning. The teacher set up the conditions for all the available resources, which is, 10 different kids in one class may take 10 different paths and approach the resources in CK-12 in 10 different ways.
It provides kids who maybe learn more traditionally a method, who maybe need a visual aid, a method. For example, we're doing factoring today and we're learning about algebra tiles, and some kids are like, oh, now I understand it, whereas yesterday maybe they weren't, picking up the concept as easy.
If you think about, as a teacher, you want to teach someone the grain that you can teach so that you can build on that knowledge.
By breaking down a subject into different concepts, the teacher can pick and choose a curriculum that is in the order and at the level that they want.
I love CK-12 content because it provides a starting point for me. If I feel my students need more background on a subject or a concept, it gives me a place to search for concepts to reinforce what we were learning that were maybe not embedded originally in the lesson, but that were provided through CK-12 website in general.
So we'd love teachers to think about moving to the concept-based learning so you can catch where the gaps lie for each student.
Concept-based learning is a great way to start implementing personalized learning. Each CK-12 concept page allows students to learn it their way. They can pick and choose different modalities and then use practice to see if there are any gaps. Digital tools are really changing the way that our students can learn.
So our first teaching strategy that we're going to share for you are links to concepts and modalities. I think this is the best way that you can start integrating CK-12 into your lessons is by simply putting the URL to the concept page. And remember, you've probably learned in the other sessions that the concept page is the one that offers all the modalities, different ways of learning this concept. So you can see here with motion, we have a read, we have a simulation, and 3 more. So a total of 4 simulation, a PLIX, videos, activities, study aids, and practice. So a lot of different ways. And therefore, because everything has a URL, you can put a link directly to that concept page or the specific modality itself. And I would put these links into my Google Classroom or my LMS or my blog or email them out. And it's a great way to have students access quality content that you want them to have. The next teaching strategy here is build a playlist inside your lesson. So as you're making a lesson or a read, go ahead at the bottom and offer some keep on learning activities that link to other modalities on CK-12. So here you can see I titled it Digital Playlist, and my students know these are optional, but if they want to keep on learning, if they finish early, they might go try expanding their knowledge by trying out, in this case, it's a PLIX about vertical and horizontal transformations. And then there's a real world application called Shifting Positions. And finally, there's a video of shifts of square root functions. So it's a nice way that if you don't have the time, for example, to make an assignment and assign all these things to your students, just to offer them as alternative pathways beyond your lesson. And I think that's a good way to look at this, is that we know sometimes kids finish early and we want to give them something meaningful. So as you're writing a lesson, this is the time you can think about what could I offer as some personalization here. As I said, there was going to be when you do it this way, though, you don't get any feedback on what the kid did. You have to make an assignment to make that happen. All right, the next teaching strategy is learn using a real world application. And on this one is we have over 2,000 real world applications, and CK-12 can offer a connection of a concept to the real world. And I strongly suggest that you start your class with these, because often it takes the real world to engage the student in the concept, which then allows them to get some deeper understanding. Reaching a higher level thinking using the real world applications also helps the students bring ideas together using analysis and modeling. We know that in both Common Core and NGSS, modeling and analyzing and synthesizing information are all approaches that students need to be fluent at, and our real world applications help the students build these skills. So you check out on each one of the concept pages, look for our real world applications there. All right, PLIX, our exciting interactives. We are so proud of these because they really allow the student to play, learn, interact, and explore concepts on CK-12. The PLIX team has done an amazing job of bringing these concepts to life. Like in this case here, we're talking about some supplementary angles and lines and perspective drawings. So I love using a PLIX as a warm-up where I tell my students, okay, go in and here's the PLIX you're supposed to do, and start out, open your computers and begin the class that way. And then they'll get excited about the concept that I'm about to introduce. You can also use it halfway through the class as they're working and they need a moment to pause and kind of think about how this concept works. The CK-12 PLIX is a great thing to do at that moment. Then finally, you could use it as an exit ticket to really reinforce the knowledge as they're leaving your classroom. So there's a variety of ways you can use the PLIX, and even it doesn't have to only be one student per computer. I think PLIX are a great example of something you can do where it's 2 students on one computer and they're helping each other figure the PLIX out and answer the questions. So one of the exciting things about PLIX is we have a variety of questions on them, but the last question is always an open discussion question. So if I've assigned this for a warm-up, I might tell the students, take this question and then use it as a writing prompt and write in their math journal about the solution to this. So in this case, it's if the train started to climb an elevation of 0 feet instead of 10 feet, how would the equation of the track change? And the concept that we're doing here is slope-intercept form of linear equations. And so this is an extension. This is a think beyond the basic problem kind of thing. So to have my students then write individually and then, or maybe they'll do, like I'm saying here, a think, pair, share, where they think of their answer, they share it with a friend, and then one of those people reports out. The other really exciting thing that a lot of our PLIX open discussion questions link through to a discussion that's already happening in the PLIX forum on the CK-12 Cafe. So sometimes you can have your students participate at a global level with students from around the world discussing ideas brought up at the end of a PLIX. So use these open discussion questions as really a great way to promote higher level thinking with your students. All right, simulations are beautiful interactives that are really rich, and they cover both physics and chemistry. But I also know that a lot of middle school science teachers use our PLIX, and even down into the elementary grades, there are things that can apply to their students. So PLIX can be as simple as going in quickly, doing the exploration, playing in the sandbox, and leaving. So it can be a 10, 15-minute activity. You could also use the PLIX during half the period or even the whole period. Okay, so you can design, these are really rich educational moments that can be adapted to really go into some really deep learning. One of the benefits too is we offer teacher walkthrough tutorials for all of our simulations. So this gives you the opportunity to really deeply understand the simulation before you have to teach it. And I think that helps a lot of teachers, especially if you're doing it from the middle school or elementary grades. You can get a good understanding of this concept being discussed in the PLIX before you have to teach it. Secondly, we have worksheets that are available both in PDF form and electronic form, and they also help you break down and kind of enhance the simulation. In addition to that, just like the PLIX, there are open-ended questions and kind of continue the learning questions. So any of these can become writing prompts and can become kind of extensions of what you're doing. That could be done individually, in pairs, or in groups, or as a whole class. Finally, in this section of concepts and modalities, we have the standards browser. And the standards browser can be accessed from the home page of any teacher account. Students do not have access to it because it just crowds. They don't want to know standards and things, but teachers do. So if you are logged in as a teacher, go to CK12.org, and as you'll see here, one of the menu items at the top is standards. Once you click on standards, you can choose between Common Core Math and Next Generation Science, but they both work the same way. You look up the standard, you navigate down to specific standards, and then it lists the official standard, like in this case, Common Core 8.G.A.4, which is obviously 8th grade geometry. And then it lists the specific concepts on CK-12 that correspond to that Common Core standard. So if you're looking for rich, meaningful content, this is the place to come, whether you're teaching Common Core Math or Next Generation Science. And if you look over to the screen with Next Generation Science, you know, we have high school physical science 1-6. There's the standard, and we have a whole list of really wonderful concepts that align with this standard. So I encourage you, you know, even if you're from a state that's not officially doing Common Core or NGSS, you know, most of the states are doing some newer version of math now, and that is often adapted from Common Core and with very little change. I know quite a few states that aren't doing, 42 states are doing Common Core, but the ones that aren't are doing something often very similar. So you can get content here that you're looking for, same with NGSS.
Awesome. Carl, I'm going to have you pull up the CK-12 homepage for a minute. And one of the very first requests that came in, let me go back to the Q&A here, said, what was that graphic with the circles? And when you clicked on one, more circles appeared. I think you're referencing the concept map that was in our video. So Carl, why don't you do a quick little demo of the concept map for our users who haven't seen that feature yet?
Sure. So the concept map was one of these great things that we did that really connects our content. So let's go here. Let's go to motion. And I'm going to go in physics. So when you're on the concept page here, you're going to see a little button up here in the top called Concept Map, Discover Related Math and Science Concepts. So I'm going to click there, and you'll have access to our kind of amazing concept map. And what this is telling us is this is motion, and here are a lot of the different concepts that are related to motion. So from motion, I can go over, for example, to velocity and acceleration. And from, acceleration, I can, of course, go back to motion, but I can do calculating acceleration from velocity and time. And if there are related math concepts, they'll show up as blue nodes here. So that's the exciting part, is it can do cross-curricular identification. In NGSS now, we're talking about cross-cutting concepts. And this is the kind of thing that can help you figure out what those are. So like velocity versus time and graphs. And then I can zoom out and I can see these beautiful concept maps that I've been working on here. So, and you can move these things around, and it to me is a really interesting tool that you can use to help students figure out related content.
Carl, earlier, a couple people were asking in the Q&A for clarity about PLIX and SIMS. I think you misspoke and you're fast talking, lots of slide flipping. But for clarity, people are saying PLIX and SIMS are not the same thing, right? He was referring to them both as PLIX and SIMS. So maybe just differentiate those one more time.
First off, I never misspeak, okay? So don't accuse me like that, okay? All right, okay, I might have misspoke, I'll admit that. So the difference here, if you scroll down to our Explore here, our simulations covering both physics and chemistry are in-depth, fully animated interactives, which allow students to explore a concept or two using multiple variables, okay? Often you'll have sliders and things, and you can, like, there will be 6 sliders in the sandbox. For PLIX, the focus is much simpler. We take one concept and we kind of make it come to life very clearly with 1 or 2 variables. We have about 115 simulations, and we have about 1,200 PLIX covering all branches of math and science. So it doesn't matter what you teach, you're going to find PLIX to cover your subject, including that we've made sure there's a PLIX for each key concept in each one of those branches. Simulations, on the other hand, are specifically for physics and chemistry. I know my biology teachers always ask, when are you going to get biology sims? And our goal is to get there down the way, but we've got a lot of good work to do in physics and chemistry. So, with our small team of 35 people that you've heard us talk about, we prioritize everything, but we can only do so much at a time.
Okay, let me take a question. One of our users was asking about, are these links annotated? And I think that question appeared when you were on the playlist section, Carl. So what Carl had done when he created that little digital playlist within a read or a lesson, he had simply used the hyperlink option to create a quick link to the URL of whatever the resource was that he was linking to. So if your question about annotations, his were just the direct links, but you could add instructions, you could add a paragraph description about what it was, lots of different things there. So I hope that helps with that. And then the next question is about best practices when doing searching. Julie's pointing out here that we get so much stuff when you type in keywords, and it can be overwhelming. And so Carl, I think let's give her a little demonstration of some of the best ways to help her filter through these searches.
Sure. And I think that let's start up here on the little bar up here, and let's type in something like osmosis, a nice biology topic. I think the best place when you're doing a search for something, if there is already a CK-12 concept for that search term, go ahead and go there. That's where you're going to find the best the best content available that we have to offer for that. And often we've made this easy. If you saw there, we've put it in a little green box. It also here you can say, oh, look, there's a read, there's some activities. And I also like using these filters over here because this, I can say, only show me concepts or only show me PLIX or, real world applications. So these are all the real world applications like this one, my favorite, from poo to you. But you can see things and it kind of reduces the list. So Julie, the first thing I tell you is start using some of the filters off to the side to help narrow what's being shown to you there. The other thing that I want to make sure you look at is check over in the community contributed area when you're searching. And I'll show you a good example of this. Let's say I'm searching for NGSS content. And if you come to CK-12, you're going to see there's just a lot of like images, simulations, etc. But I'm going to go look in community contributed. And I think we'll find a lot of things that our users have done for NGSS. And specifically, if you want to only see FlexBooks, click on the FlexBooks tab, and it's going to show me all the books on CK-12 that people have specifically put NGSS in. So if you're looking for like a middle school NGSS book or a biology book, etc., you can go in and see what other people has done. So the kind of two hints to you are use the community contributed tab if you don't find the content you're looking for on CK-12 under this tab, and then also use the filters on the left-hand side to make your search hopefully a little bit more what you're looking for.
Awesome. All right. We cleared out that window for now. I'm going to seal back the screen and we're going to go into our next section, but keep asking us questions as you guys have them. And let's see, we're going to talk about easy to implement teaching strategies.
Yes, so our next section is easy to implement teaching strategies that will show how to use CK-12 as an intervention covering adaptive practice, pre-post assessments using the quiz feature, and differentiating classes for varying levels. So the first one is, you've heard about it a lot, it's one of our star products, and that's our adaptive practice. And it is wonderful for intervention because it helps students learn at the appropriate level. Okay, using CK-12's machine learning, our system quickly adapts to the student's level and builds on it from there. So we help them find their success point and then build. The other great thing is when the student struggles, the students are offered a variety of content that's proven to help. For example, it might say that 89% of students do better on this concept after doing this interactive, or 92% of students do better after doing this video. So the bottom line is when the student has had that kind of painful, struggling moment, CK-12 offers content in the moment to help them get out of that struggle and back up to what the class is doing. Finally, reports help both the student and the teacher really understand where gaps are, where the struggles are. So how many questions have they answered? How much time was spent? What the level of the questions were? Which questions were the ones that they missed? All of this information is super useful to be an intervention to help them learn better. You can use CK-12's quiz feature to create pre and post tests. And the quiz feature is really great because you can create these tests. You can use CK-12 questions, or you can add your own, or a mix of the two. But by having a pre-test, you can assess their starting knowledge to quickly see what the students know when they're starting out on a concept or unit. And then finally, the pre and post tests can really show growth. In data-driven classrooms, results from pre and post tests can show how a student has progressed through the next topics. So think about making some pre and post tests at the beginning of the year for your students to really try out this feature and really have some great benefits of kind of documenting those scores on pre and post test. Now, one of the exciting things that you can do is you can create a group, or we now call them classes, based on skills and needs. And earlier I talked about the purple group and the green group and the blue group. And I think that is something that, you know, you can make as many differentiated groups for your class as you want, but you can offer them slightly different assignments then based on what the group's needs are. And maybe a group only has 2 kids in it, or even 1 kid. But the nice thing is there's no stigma with what they have to do, because it's probably at a time when I tell everybody, okay, go do the assignment for today. And, you know, kids don't even know they don't necessarily have the same group. You know, kids are getting smarter and they realize they are getting personalized learning. And that means we all don't do the same thing at the same time anymore. So understand, even if you use differentiated classes with one class, you can still have a class list that includes all the students, and you can make assignments that will also be done for them. So I think this is a really important part of using CK-12 to do personalized learning, because differentiated groups or classes within your class allows you to really control the content they're getting and allows the students to really get the content that's meaningful to them. Our next section of easy to implement teaching strategies will show how to use CK-12 as homework. Homework could be the bane of any teacher's existence, and CK-12 is here to help you. So first off, once again, use CK-12's adaptive practice as your homework. Throw away your blackline masters that are one-size-fits-all, frustrating for kids. Either they're too hard or they're too easy. And so better than a worksheet, you can use CK-12's 150,000 questions to really make practice a meaningful homework task. You can do daily assignments, or you can actually do them over the whole week. You know, I've been in lots of classrooms where at the beginning of the week, the teacher assigns to the class all the concepts they're going to be learning that week. That could be, you know, 5 to 8 to 10 concepts. And they simply say, you need to complete this by Friday's class. So the students have some flexibility on it, and they can do it when they want. There's an app for their mobile phone, for their smartphone. So the CK-12 app allows them to complete their assignment on their phone. But the benefit of CK-12 practice is that it is practice. It's not summative, it's formative. We offer hints. We show them, you know, the right answer, the right answer if they've missed it wrong, like in this example here. So I think it's a great way to have them practice and use their knowledge to see if they've learned it well enough. One of the things that I've done when I was a teacher, I was a math teacher for 17 years, and I, toward the end there, really enjoyed flipping my classroom. And I'd make all these videos and make the kids watch it and then fill out a little Google form afterward. And I think CK-12 can really make flipping your classroom easier, because we have a lot of the content that you need, so you don't have to make it yourself. So all you have to do is pick a video, and then maybe another one of our modalities like the PLIX or Sims, to really have the students do the basic level exploration at home. Because what the whole idea with flipped classroom is they do the easy stuff when they're not with you or having the benefit of their peers in their class. They do the easy stuff. They learn the foundational stuff at home, so that by the time they get to their classroom, they already have a pretty good level of understanding. And therefore, in class, with your support and with the support of their peers, they can get into the really harder parts of this concept. When you pair that with adaptive practice, I think you have a really powerful tool that can happen outside of the class to support higher level thinking in class.
Carl, somebody just typed in, I think they're still a little confused on what exactly flipping the classroom means. If somebody's not familiar with that phrase.
Yeah, so the idea here is, in the olden days, as we like to call them, we would, in class, I would teach my students about something new. I would give them the basic content. We do a couple easier problems as kind of group work. So, and then maybe they might do one other easier problem. But all the kind of the harder problems, I assign in the homework, and they have to go home all by themselves and sit there and try to do some really higher level thinking and harder problems. So finally we discovered, you know, why don't we flip this? If I can help them learn all the easy stuff at home and then when they get to class, when the teacher's around and with the benefit of their peers, we can really get into some deeper level thinking on this. So that's the idea, is that you assign easier to learn things when they're not in class so that you can get to higher level things when they're with you in class. All right, the next thing here is about showing how to use CK-12 to improve literacy. Reading across the curriculum is very important, and CK-12 is here to help.
All right, let's start out this section by hearing from a CK-12 teacher who uses the digital highlighting feature on CK-12 to help her students process academic text. Sorry, I think I just...
A student has more than one learning modality, learns through multiple modalities. A feature that CK-12 provides is the highlighting with different colors. So I'm able to not only emphasize a key point, but I'm able to assign it to a specific color that can also trigger maybe another memory for them.
Okay, so let's go to the next slide, and I think we're a slide ahead.
I met a parent.
Where we go. There we go.
Second.
We'll just catch you back up here. This is when I learned to tap dance, and we get you back to the highlighting slide. There we go. All right, so to me, this is one of the exciting things, and I can demo it here if anybody needs more explanation. But as you can see here on the screen, on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a little highlighter and kind of a little notepad thing. And these are really wonderful because students can highlight their text. And, you know, we do this thing, talk to the text. But they can go through, for example, and in yellow, highlight the topic sentence, and then in blue they can highlight all the supporting facts in that paragraph that support the topic sentence. Then you'll see in the next paragraph of my example there, the student has highlighted a whole paragraph and then done an annotation where they have summarized in their own words what that paragraph was about. You can see in the second window here, at the bottom of the page where there's any notes or highlights, it summarizes everything that was highlighted or annotated. And this is a great way for students when they're reviewing their notes to focus on those things, because it can really help them study and pick out the important parts. Now, a lot of times people ask us, can the teacher see a student's highlights? And unfortunately, at this time, they can't. What I've seen teachers do is they have the students screen capture the notes and highlight section showing all the things that they highlighted, and then send those, you know, via email to their teacher, and they get credit for it that way. But these highlights, like in a book, you know, when a student highlights in a book, a teacher doesn't have access to those or on a piece of paper. And so, you know, the idea here is that this is for the student and it's a learning tool. But you know, Anna just said in the video there, I've been in Anna's classroom, and her kids, like, they love this. It really helps them attack academic reading in a really meaningful way. So, you know, definitely when you start out with FlexBooks with your students, spend some time kind of modeling how to use the highlighting features, and then require that they do some summaries, like maybe they highlight the first paragraph or the last paragraph and write a summary of what they learned in 2 or 3 sentences. But this is a very good skill that will help them in future academic texts. All right, another thing that we've talked about here is the foreign language support. And this is really important in improving literacy, because the idea here is that CK-12's pages can be displayed in any of the Google Translate languages. So I'm trying to think what language it looks like is there. I think it's Xhosa or Malagasy, one of the two. But you can choose a language there. And one of the things that I've often seen is a student who has a Chromebook and has English FlexBook open on their Chromebook, but has their smartphone in their hand. And in their hand, the smartphone, they've set it to the setting that translates it to the home language, so that they are using simultaneous screens to be able to really reinforce the language that is missing if they're reading only English. But reminder, we have, and I can show you this too, we have beautiful Spanish books that were translated by human beings, and these are available. If you look on our branch of FlexBook pages, you can see them at the bottom of the list each time. So you might want to start with those if Spanish is the book that you're looking for. Otherwise, having students translate using this Google Translate feature is really wonderful. All right, involving parents is super important, and we know that. As I said in the past, a concept page link is really good for a parent to see, what is my student studying? I've seen it where teachers will send out a weekly email to their parents saying, here's what we're learning this week. And to see, parents often forget things like Pythagorean theorem or osmosis or whatever it is. So if you can send them the actual links to the concept pages so they can learn it their way, and just like their students, the idea here is that they can at least understand what their students are learning and possibly help them. Also, FlexBooks are a great way to share content with students, with parents, because FlexBooks are in a format that parents are familiar with. I had a high school student until June, and I got really frustrated that, I'd say, well, where's your book for biology? And he goes, no, we only use PDFs and stuff, and it's in this Google folder. Well, I had no access to that Google folder. Therefore, I had no access to see any of the content that he was using. And the nice thing about creating a FlexBook is that all of a sudden, you are providing not only the students, but the parents something that they understand. There's a table of contents. It's broken up by units, and it feels familiar. And I think we're always trying to make a connection with our parents, especially if they can share some of their knowledge with their students about that subject. So I feel like using CK-12, especially our FlexBooks, is great. The other thing we just talked about is it's easy to support the parent's home language, because if you have that FlexBook and you can say, but you can view it in Malagasy, then all of a sudden it's much more meaningful to them, and they can understand in their own language what their students are using. So we're going to go now and see a video from Cynthia Otiveros in EPISD, who talks about using CK-12.
I met a parent who was struggling with supporting his daughter because he did not speak English very well. So I brought up the CK-12 on my iPad. I quickly showed him how he can change the language, and he was nearly in tears, and he felt just so excited that now that he could help his daughter, which was emotional for me too, knowing that this is what CK-12 is about. This is what we want our parents, our language learners, no matter where they come from, no matter what language they speak, they need to find a place in our classroom, and CK-12 helps us to do that.
We're going to stop there for a moment and come back to our Q&A window. Carl, I know you're going to be demonstrating, so I'll let you go ahead and get set up here with your screen for CK-12. One of these first questions said, have you found students using paper and pencil on the adaptive practice or whiteboards? And I just wanted to share an anecdote. I think we may have talked about this in an earlier session, but Katie and I got to go to a school in Baltimore and see one of our 2017 CEs working with the students. And we walked in, and it was awesome. There were a bunch of students standing at a smartboard at the front of the room, and they were working on adaptive practice problems together. And they had some sort of elaborate kind of competitive yet friendly systems set up where they were challenging each other and trying to figure out how to answer the questions. But our CE had a philosophy of that students care more when they're standing in front of their peers at the board, working together, it's helping them out. So it was it was interesting that adaptive practice doesn't have to be one student on their own screen in isolation. It can also be this very public experience where they're collaborating and working together. Carl, it looks like several people, since you talked about highlighting and note-taking, want a little more detail about that. So maybe you show them how to do that and then talk through where they see those notes and where do they live and how do students access them.
No problem. So for my example here, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page to our brand new Common Core math books, because I find these books super exciting. And of the Common Core books, I'm going to take the Algebra 1 interactive book, because I think it's one of our most fabulous books that we have right now. I'm going to click into expressions, and it can be distribution and factoring. This looks like a perfectly fine lesson. So as you come down here, you can see off to the right here, I've got a highlighter and an annotation thing here. So I'm going to click on the highlighter. And then this is an example. We're going to explore the area of rectangles. So maybe I'm going to highlight that. Explore the area of rectangles distribution plot. There you go. All right. And so I've done it in yellow there. And if what you're going to see now is at the bottom, it's going to add it to a section called Notes and Highlights. And you can see I accidentally, well, I did on purpose, but accidentally put the word in here. So I'm going to delete that one. I don't mean for that one to be highlighted, but you can see it tells me you will explore the area of rectangles and use the distributive property to multiply two binomials. Okay, so anything that I highlight throughout this text will then be included as part of the notes at the bottom. So I'm gonna, I don't know what else here to do. Use the interactive from the last problem. There we go. So like another talking about expanding it here. Okay. I could also come here and write a response to something that they're discussing here or to one of the interactives. One of the cool things about these new interactive lessons is they have interactives built in. So right here, you get to try it. So let's say I'm doing this and I'm doing the interactive and I'm supposed to be finding the solutions to this problem, example 3 here. So I'm gonna try this, etc. So you could actually have the student then go over and get the annotation thing, put it here and say, the Athenians and the battlers, I spelled it wrong, that's fine, the kids would spell it wrong, would beat the crushers in the battle, etc. So I can put that right there. And then, like I said, you scroll all the way to the bottom and you can see exactly everything I've highlighted and everything that I've annotated. And once again, this is a great way to have them do stuff that is summarizing or synthesizing information. It's perfect for those kind of activities. And then if you wanted, I could just go make a little screenshot of this and take a picture and send it to my teacher. So I think that answers that question.
And those notes and highlights do live in the individual student's account. So of course you guys want to be thinking through how to get all of your students signed up and signed in to CK-12 at the beginning of the school year, so that this is one of the reasons why they would want to be logged in, is so that notes like this can be attached to their account.
And Lindsay, I would add to that, the students' annotations are never seen in your main document, in your version of it, okay? They don't affect it in the least. The only time they're seen is when that student is logged in, they see their own annotations, but they don't see anybody else's, nor do you see theirs, and your copy's not affected.
Okay, another quick question for you, Carl. You talked earlier about the idea of like a pre and post test. So we have a teacher here who's saying that teaching a geometry tutorial for students who need extra math help. Is there any sort of a diagnostic that I can give them, or should I just start them off at some earlier grade level with adaptive practice?
And that's exactly what I would suggest. I would, we all know, for example, coming into geometry, what are the skills, what are the concepts that our students struggle with? And often we begin geometry with a little review for a week or so of some things that we know are going to be really important to be successful in geometry. The same happens in algebra 2, and pretty much every year of math. There's a little brain drain over the summer. So come up with, identify the concepts that you think they struggle with the most, create an assignment out of it, and have them go on adaptive practice and work on it. It's a great idea.
Okay, then somebody said, I'm sorry, I missed it. What languages do you support? Specifically, do you support Chinese?
There we go. Well, let's take a look here. I'm going to come down to the bottom of the page here, and this is where you select your language. And I believe we do a simplified Chinese and a traditional. So let's go ahead and translate this page to simplified. And here we go. And this is where you lose me quickly, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but here is our page, what it looks like in Chinese, simplified. I know that this symbol here means middle. That's all I know. So that's where my knowledge, oh, actually, this one might mean bottom here. No, upper, it means upper. I remember riding trains in China and having to know the top bunk, middle bunk, or bottom bunk. All right, off topic. Other questions?
A follow-up to the notes and highlighting. Several users are asking, you just showed how it works within CK-12. People who are using learning management systems like Canvas and Schoology and Google Classroom, it works a little bit differently. What can you tell them about highlighting in those learning management systems?
Yes, so currently you need to be logged into CK-12 to have the benefit of the annotation, okay? So and its limitation, understand that we have these integrations with these other services, and often their integration with outside services doesn't allow for that type of information to be passed through. So, it really depends on what the service is, because like currently in the offline reader, you don't have access to these annotations. They only happen when you're online and connected through CK-12.
And then here's a request we hear quite a bit about, is there an ability for a FlexBook to read aloud to the students, referencing the old audio CDs that used to come with supplemental activities? What do you have to say?
Yeah, this is where CK-12 just excels, because we don't lock up our content the way that the major publishers have to. So our content is right here on this page, and there are Chrome plugins or browser plugins that you can get to read the content to the student. You can also do the same with students with vision issues that need it much larger. So, in the olden days, I remember having students who needed like all my tests and stuff greatly enlarged, and even content I was giving in class on big 17 by 11 sheets. And the nice thing now is they have a lot more flexibility by using the page here and enlarging it digitally here. So yes, they're being read to or dealing with any kind of visual impairment issues are really easily done on CK-12.
All right, keep asking great questions. As we are approaching the hour mark, I do want to make sure that you guys have all the information you need for this session, and then we'll keep talking about some of the questions that you're posting. Reminder about the resource page that is available to you in Google Classroom, where the link was put in the chat window earlier. The session assignments, somebody was asking earlier as a Q&A, just a reminder that yes, you guys are attending 5 live webinars, and you're doing the 2 on-demand sessions at your leisure from the comfort of your homes to become CK-12 certified. And for all of those sessions, there is an assignment that you must complete as well. And we will run records automatically on your Zoom attendance, and we will check out your assignments, and we pull records, and if all of those line up, you attended the live sessions, you watched the on-demand sessions, you completed your assignments, we will issue you a certificate, and you'll be a CK-12 certified educator. So make sure you're getting the assignment in. We're reaching the end of the program. Tomorrow afternoon, we're trying something special. Instead of us guiding the conversation as we always do, our team kind of, lecturing, leading through the discussion here. We've set up little mini webinars through Zoom for you guys to network with each other. And we're going to be using actually a Zoom meeting and what they call their breakout rooms, which allows you guys to turn on your microphone and even turn on your video if you choose to, and talk to each other. So you can self-select which of these you want to attend. We've broken up the country into kind of, regions, and we have a homeschool session and a higher education session. Join as many of these as you would like. Again, the intent is just to get you networking and talking about what's going on in your area, and not limit you to the chat window, but let you actually turn on your microphone and have a discussion. The links to these are already in your chat window, so you can click on the direct register link and sign up for any of those. We would love to have you join us tomorrow. Otherwise, we talk about this every session. We love your feedback. Please continue to use this form. It's in Google Classroom. We appreciate any suggestions that you can give us as we continue to work on this program. And then jumpstart@ck12.org is your email address for any questions you have for us that's program related. And then we are on all the socials. We shared with you some tweets earlier. We do love the Twitter. We love looking at what you guys have posted there. So keep the networking coming. If you do need to head off this webinar and all your questions have been answered, thanks for joining us. We hope we'll see you tomorrow for our last session on Sims and PLIX, and our live chats that are happening the majority of the day tomorrow. If you still have some questions that you want answered, stay on. I'm going to kick it over to Carl, who's going to steal the screen from me, and he's going to be ready to do some more demos for whatever you guys have to ask. So Carl, do you know what which question you're tackling first?
Yeah, so I think there are some questions here like, do notes and highlighting work through Schoology? Unfortunately not at this time. Like I said, with our integrations, they do not allow us to pass that information back and forth yet. But, these integrations are constantly getting better. So, our team works hard to make sure that we can give you the best experience possible. So we can kill that one. How do you do a screenshot? I only know Max, but on a screenshot, it's Shift-Control-Command-4, if you've heard of such a thing. You have to hold the Shift-Control-Command buttons all down at the same time, and then press 4. If somebody can put that in the chat window, that'd be great. On a Mac, it's Shift-Command-Control-4. And then on a PC, I know when I used to have PCs, I sometimes would download a third-party app to help me do them. I think there's something with the print screen that you can do, but you'll have to just Google screenshot on a PC. But those are really useful, and the kids are very good at them. So, and on their phones, they definitely know how to take screenshots, depending on what phone they're using. All right, another question?
Yeah, a user's asking, is there a cheat sheet, something that has the basic navigation tools to use, etc., or some sort of handout kids at the start of the school year for kids who may enter the class mid-semester? I don't know if they're maybe talking about general CK-12 strategies to get them caught up to CK-12, or I'm not sure if that's subject specific.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what direction to send you here, but I do think it's an interesting comment that I don't think have any handouts currently for students, and that might be an area that we could improve on. So I think it's a good suggestion. The help desk has an area. If you go click on help in the upper right hand corner, and it has, yeah, I guess I can do it because I'm sharing my screen. You can see here that there's a part for students. So where do I start? How to use groups for your classes, textbooks, and then all the other things here. So you can send them to this page, and it's ck12.org/help. Okay. Another question?
We have an open question about relating to Google Classroom. Let's see. I'm going to let Katie actually tackle this one because I think she's probably mid-conversation with this user.
So the question here is about linking our apps and some of our learning management system platforms. So if you're assigning content within CK-12, then the practice app would show those assignments if you logged in. If you're using Google Classroom to log in, I think because your login is the same, if you do the work in the app, you should then be able to turn it in within Classroom, but it doesn't automatically turn into a learning management system in the same way. And if you're using Canvas or Schoology, it gets more complicated. So if you're trying to do that, I would email us. We can talk about some options, but that app is primarily for doing practice and assignments within CK-12 because that's an app we created. If you're trying to link it to something else, then email us and we'll go from there.
So a question that we have is, if using different groups for a class, would you need to make multiple classes within CK-12 for each group?
Yeah, I think if you're doing differentiated groups, what I would do is, like, I would set up my purple group and my green group, and I would put, you know, Lindsay and Sarah and Bobby in the one group, and then I would have a separate group which represents the whole class. Okay, so I know that sometimes I use my colors to do assignments, and sometimes I just use the whole class. So you'll figure out what way it works well for you. But I think that's I would definitely do a differentiated color group thing so that you can have the ability to assign certain students different assignments.
All right, last call for any Q&A questions. Thanks for all the positive comments and chats. This video will be posted within 24 hours for those of you who are saying that you're going to rewatch a lot of our videos. You can do that on our YouTube channel or in the Google Classroom. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope to see a lot of you tomorrow in Sims and PLIX or our live chats. See you later.